Death is inevitable. So you really need to think about that time. Death does not know how old or how young you are. Does not know how poor or how rich you are. Oftentimes you hear about the word estate planning. And what comes to your mind is that it's meant for those who have acquired plenty land. If I do a will now and in the next 2-3 years, I want to add more to it, yes, you can do that. If all you've used your money to acquire as asset is Brazilian wig, then today I want to talk to you about how you can will it out. But that's joking. Today, I want to talk to you about will and trust. Hello, Your Excellency. It's the Money Mindset with Razak. How are you and how is it going out there? Oftentimes you hear about the word estate planning. And what comes to your mind is that it's meant for those who have acquired plenty land, assets, those who are wealthy. But honestly, the answer is no. If you have got a pension account and you have a 9-to-5 job, I really want you to listen to this session. So stay glued and hit on the subscribe button before I proceed. So what is estate planning? Imagine you have a basket and you have different sets of fruits in that basket. Apple, oranges, and you're keeping everything in that basket with the intention that you want to use the basket as a way of safeguarding your assets. So see those oranges, apples, pineapples as different forms of assets you've got. Cars, land, laptop, even your digital assets, your bank account. When you bring everything together into that basket and you're now trying to manage it, that is what estate planning is all about. But from a personal finance perspective, how do you deal with estate planning? There are two major tools that you actually use for that. One is will, and the second is called trust. So you might be asking yourself, am I not too young? Is this guy wishing me that to die? No, that's not what I'm wishing you. You know the popular slang, everybody will eat the breakfast. Whether you like it or not, we will all die one day. So what you really need to think about is the future. How do I plan for that? Death is inevitable. So you really need to think about that time. Death does not know how old or how young you are. Does not know how poor or how rich you are. When it is time, it is time. And for many of you who travel, you often fly from one place to another. I do that as well. When you experience that turbulence, you start asking yourself, hey, what will happen? So calm down. What you need to do is to think about the use of trust and will. I'll talk about the two, but I will pay more attention to one. Trust and will are almost the same. Few things only differentiate them. When it comes to trust, what you are saying is that you are transferring your asset into another entity that will be managed by a trustee. What does that mean? You own a house, you own a car, your bank account, your investment. You are transferring it into another entity. So imagine you have a company. Remember, the principle of owning a company is when you have a company, that company is an entity on its own. So you are transferring the ownership of your asset into that company. And then you are now asking another company, which is called the trustee, to manage that company for you. A lot of wealthy people do this more often because sometimes when they experience litigation, they are only charging them as an individual, not the entity they've actually transferred their wealth to. But if you are not yet there and you are only aspiring to be wealthy, how do you use will as a way of protecting yourself? Pretty simple as well. You are writing a will as a statement of what should happen eventually when you leave this world. But many times people think that is all will is about. And that's why I said if you have a pension account, I want you to listen very, very well. In Nigeria today, in fact, if you have a bank account and anything happened to you, particularly that bank account that you don't have ATM, nobody can withdraw that money from your account, even your next of kin. Let me shock you. Your next of kin cannot receive 1 kobo from that bank account you own. The only 2 ways, and even if you have a pension account, and your assumption is you've got a next of kin, trust me, I'm telling you fact, that your next of kin cannot get the money in your pension account. The only 2 ways the law actually give people to get that out. 1 is going through what they call letter of administration. And 2, using will. So, letter of administration is one of the most tedious, tough, or even if you want to use the most toughest, if there's any word like that you can get in a Nigerian setting. Sometimes it takes you as long as 1, 2, 3 years to get it. Don't think the lawyer is frustrating you. It's just a process. So one of the easiest ways you can transfer your pension, the money in your bank account, your mutual fund, your investment, is making use of will. The Pension Administration Act in Nigeria make it clear that if you passed on and you've got a lot of money in your pension account and you have a will that clearly stipulates that, then that money can be transferred. So how do you go about owning a will? The first thing is identify a lawyer or identify a trust and will company. There are plenty of them. For example, insurance companies, some of these insurance companies offer that service. So even if you don't have a lawyer, Afri Invest, there's Afri Trust, there's Leadway Trust. These are some examples you can engage. Number 2, they'll give you a form to fill. And what does those forms entails? Part of the first thing you need to do with that is sit down and list everything you own. Sometimes you might think you don't own anything. And if all you've got is that Brazilian wig, then you have to sit down and write it down as well. After all, that's what you use majority of your money to buy. Come back to reality. That book you've written is part of your assets. Your laptop, that land you bought, that gold you purchased, that wristwatch, that jewelries. List it. Honestly, that's one of the most humbling periods for me as a person. I mean, I did mine about 5 years ago. And when you do that, that's when you start realizing, have I acquired up to this? Because sometimes it helps you to see what you own and what you don't own. Your bank accounts. Where do you own account? Where are you saving money? Your mutual funds account. Your investment account, including the fintechs. Maybe you've gone with some of those new fintech. You own things like treasury bills, your stocks, your shares. You need to sit down and actually list them. So when you list them, the real assets, the tangible and intangible assets. The third thing you will need to do is to identify who are your executors. Your executors are different from the beneficiaries. The beneficiaries are people that you want those things you own to be transferred to. So for example, you've got a wife and kids, or you've got husband and kids, or you've got wife, kids, and siblings and your parents. Of course, nobody wished to die before he's our parent, but we've seen what happened. I'm sure you read about the story of Abatu Igwe, and you see the case in the court. So you might also want to think, peradventure, if I leave my parent on this earth, how can certain part of my world be given to them? I don't wish anyone that, but it happens, and that's reality. So sit down and list who are your beneficiaries. In fact, maybe you have an organization, a charity, you want some of your wealth to be transferred to. Sit down and list them. Allocate percentage or the way you want it. It's your choice. and it's left for you to decide on how you want to do this. The next thing you want to do when it comes to this conversation is the executors. The executors are people you really, really trust. People that will stand and say, hey, this is what Mr. Lagbaja have said he wants, and they will stick to it. Your executors cannot, and I use the word cannot, be your beneficiaries. So you need to appoint at least 2 of those executors. As part of that process, when you are done with the filling of your form, you send it back to the lawyer or the company that you are engaging. They will guide you through. But part of the things they will ask you to do is also getting a witness. A witness would need to sign alongside those forms with you. Those witnesses, at least 2, they don't need to have access to the full content of your will. They only need to witness the fact that I witness that Mr. X, Mr. Z wrote a will, and I'm witnessing that this will is true and genuine. So they don't need to see what is in the content. After they sign it, the company or the lawyer will pick it up and then do the processing and submit it at the probate. And lodge it at the probate. That's the court, the Federal High Court. When they lodge it there, automatically it takes a while. The probate will publish it in their registry at the court, and then they will give you a number to it, the final copy. That final copy is what you hear people say, hey, I saw somebody's will at home. These days, the world is no longer keeping any physical will anymore. All you need to do is to let at least your beneficiaries, your spouse, and your kids, I have so will. I have a will, and it's lodged at the probate. That's all they need to know. But what differentiates a will from a trust? A trust is a private document that no one can see. A will, after the person has passed on, anybody can go to the registry and go with the certified true copy or the number to go and search for it, that I want to see what he or she has put in his will. Anyone can do that. But when it comes to trust, no one can see it apart from maybe key parties or when it goes to the court. Even at the court, they cannot publish it. So it's a real private document when it comes to trust. Number 2, in most instances when you are transferring your assets into the trust, when you're filling it and transferring to trust. So for example, most time your trust will have your account name, will have a name. So that name can be as simple as, let's say, Adekoya Razak Dynasty or Adekoya Razak Trusts. Yeah, you hear things like trust fund. Yeah, so you can have something like Adekoya Razak Trust Fund or trust account or trust dynasty, anything. The process of transferring your wealth, what you own as Adekoya Razak Adekoya, is different from what is transferred. So you need to change the ownership from that your name to the entity name that is given to your trust. And that's why sometimes trust can take a while and it can take some time to get. So it's highly private. Of course, if you choose to go for a trust, remember you need to do a lot of check, because the company that is taking it from you, which is the trustee, would want to be sure that what you are transferring to them is not, they will do all what they call things like anti-money laundering to be sure that it's not a proceeds of crime. But when it comes to will, you don't need to do all of those transferring. It's just about you listing and submitting. The next phase I want to talk about is, I've not got a lot. I don't even own a house. What can I start with? Today, my first thing or my first key action as call to action to you listening to me is start with RSA will. You know that RSA, Retire Savings Account. If that's what you can start with, start an account with that. What that means is that they can do a will only for your pension alone. Saying, if I passed on, whatever money is in my pension account, please transfer it to XYZ in XYZ ratio. Right? That's number 1. Number 2, there is also a will that is just for your will and your bank account. and your investment. So even if you don't own a house, your bank account, your pension, those two can be merged into one will and you can write it out. And if you've got house, property, and you want to do a comprehensive will, again, you can also do that. Finally, if I do a will now and in the next 2-3 years, I want to add more to it, yes, you can do that. Talk to whoever is doing that for you, be it your lawyer or any of those companies. And one of the things that people do often say is, oh, I don't want the lawyer to betray me. That is why you've got those trust companies. I've given you 2 examples. I hope this makes sense. That is inevitable to anyone. But I really want to urge you that you would not want to pass on and then your wealth becomes a subject of litigation. People start fighting about it. You need to think about that. It's not about age. It's about what you've got. And it's about your future. I wish you long life and I wish you the best. Hello, Your Excellency. If this makes sense to you, hit the subscribe, like this, share, and turn on the notification button. I'd love to read your comments. How are you?